working with our member clubs and emerging facilities to try to help grow our sport and our regional associations. So I'm really excited to be doing this work. And I'm joined today by two terrific guests we have for recruiting and retention. Lori Markham is the president of the Seattle Granite Club, and Mimi Stevenson is the founder of Rock Creek Curling and one of the founders, I guess, of Rock Creek Curling in Colorado. So welcome to both of you. Lori, Mimi, hi.
Hi.
So I think what's great about the two perspectives that you two provide is that, Mimi's Rock Creek Curling is not even quite open yet, but it's very close to opening. It's a brand new facility, a new model, and certainly in a great metro market that's growing. Lori is at Seattle Granite, which is, and I don't mean this to sound bad, but one of our legacy clubs in the United States. I mean, it's an established club, one of my favorite places to curl, actually. I love the bar on the side there, Lori, but the two of you provide, I think will provide different perspectives, but all will be valuable. I'd encourage anyone on the call to jump into the chat or raise your hand to jump in. Steve O'Keefe is also on this, so he's going to help me monitor some of the things that are beyond my skills technically, but I will do my best here. I'm going to quickly share. I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, oh, that's a little too quick. I did that. Share my screen, and we'll get to this. And I will go back. So everybody sees my screen now. Does that work for everyone? Yeah. All right. So the initial title of this was recruiting. I added recruiting and retention. I'm calling it getting people into your facility and keeping them there. Hopefully not by locking the doors and holding them in. I think what we want to do is turn our first-time participants into lifetime curlers. That's always the goal. So part of this, I think, too, we're going to focus on conversion rates and how we can improve those. I think if we look at curling overall anywhere, we all would like to probably get our conversion rates a little higher. So you've met us all, so I'm going to skip through that. But I want to start. I'm going to throw it out to Lori and Mimi, and I'll quickly add. I have, as anybody knows me, I have a lot of my own opinions on things. But one of the things that I'm excited about with this session is to gather some new best practices, whether it's for Mimi and Lori or anyone else. So feel free to keep offering your ideas and whatever else you might have. But I'll start with Lori. And Lori, what kind of outreach when it comes to finding new members? And this can be, you could talk pre-COVID or post-COVID, right? I'm calling it post-COVID. Hopefully we're there. But what kind of outreach do you do? And I know at one point your club was probably not really in need of new members, but I think going forward, you're going to be looking for this. So what kind of outreach have you done, and what sort of outreach do you plan?
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the differentiation between pre and post-COVID. You're absolutely right. Pre-COVID, we were not really in a position where we needed to actually find members. For those of you that know or don't know, we have a 5-sheet curling club, and so generally speaking, you should be looking somewhere around between 500 and 600 members. And consistently, we have done that. Our retention rate is fairly high, and I apologize, it would have been more appropriate to have some statistical numbers for you, but a past president, Joe Roberts, he keeps that information for us. And so we're able to see not only our membership, but we're also able to look at our retention rate and look and see what it's doing. In the past, clearly our retention rate has been pretty good because we don't generally have any less than about 400 members at the club. And if you look at our patterns or our tracings, we always have a spike in membership with the Olympics being sure. The Olympic year. And so we're hoping for that again this year, actually expecting that again this year. The other thing that, as for those on the call that know, we closed March the 18th or something like that in 2020. And so huge loss for us, both the year that we were closed and then, or both that year that we closed and then the following year. So in that time period when we were closed, we did a lot of work about, okay, what is it that we're going to have to do to get people back in the door?
Mhm.
From an outreach perspective, we seem to gain our most by Learn to Curls. We had a new guy take over our Learn to Curls, and he's very proactive himself, and he's been able to get folks in the door. So that would be one of the things that I spend time thinking about is how many Learn to Curls can we offer based on our calendar? And then the other part that has made a difference for us this year as we're trying to get folks back in the door is bumping up our social media presence. And we have a new team that we set up this year, a communications team, and it's not fully formed, it's not fully in action, but we do have somebody, Brian Pittard, who's taken over leading that team, and he works in the business and he's very in tune with where our presence needs to be.
Yeah, I know Brian a little bit, so I'm sure he'll be great at that. One thing I was going to ask with your Learn to Curls, how do people sign up for them? Like, is it one of the things I'm trying to encourage clubs to do is make sure it's clearly visible when you first land on a club website. So,
Yep.
is that they find it as soon as they go to the homepage?
Yep, it's right there. And we did change it this year because we used to call it, I'll come back to that. I have to think about what it was, but we changed it so that it was Learn to Curl. We've traditionally had junior Learn to Curl programs also. And then we spent a lot of time talking this year about what is the word that we want? What do we want people to hear when we advertise? And so we went across the board and we changed all of it to Learn to Curl. So there's a very clear understanding from a social or from a media perspective in what it is that we're offering. You pay $25, you come to the club for an hour and a half, and you're learning to curl. You're learning the fundamentals of curling. We have one that's actually going on right now as we speak, and we have 82 people signed up.
Well, that's great.
The thing about our Learn to Curls is it gets mentioned on the website. It is on the website, again, with the social media component of it. Advertising on Facebook, advertising, I think that Brian does Twitter and Instagram and that sort of thing. And then folks just go to the website and then they sign up and it sells out very, very quickly. I predict that that's going to continue as we lead up to the Olympics. And then after the Olympics, then we're going to have to spend some more time thinking about where we can fit all the folks in.
Sure. And we're going to get to that later in this, but I'm going to throw it to you, Mimi. You are obviously you're starting from scratch in a way, a brand new club, brand new facility. And if anybody doesn't know much about it, it looks like it'll be fantastic. But you also have you've had Denver is clearly booming and the curling community is booming. So you have that advantage as well. But what are some of the ideas you have to get people in right away, get them to learn the game? In a way that makes them enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're really lucky in our timing in that we're opening, I wouldn't say post-COVID, but, really hopefully past kind of the bulk of closures and things
Right.
like that. So what we're doing is we're trying to take advantage of our grand opening in November and December. We're doing a series of weekend open houses. So come in, it's about an hour where you can come in really small groups, 8 at a time, coming in through waves over the course of a 3-hour period to get on the ice and just get that first basic introduction into curling. So we have several weekends where we're doing that. We're also offering a 4-week junior intro program, and we're doing a 4-week adult intro to curling, and those are actually running alongside our leagues this fall. So so the people who have signed up for this 4-week intro course will do 2 hours 2 hours in a night for 4 weeks, and they'll actually be curling and learning right alongside our league curlers. And we put those in really to start to get people feeling like they're that weekly curler already and part of that community. They'll broom stack afterwards. And we hope that they're finding that place that then they can go into our winter leagues in January.
So when you say people sign up, they sign up in groups of 8 to 10, so they can go on your site and they can be 8 to 10 friends and basically book a sheet for what's essentially an intro learn to curl.
Exactly. And so it's shorter than probably the more traditional learn to curl model. It's
Yep.
just
I love
about an
that, to be
hour
honest.
from start
Yep.
to finish. And you know, Sean, as he was developing, you know, what that would actually look like, we looked at what Denver's doing. They've done a really successful series of this open house model over
Right.
the last couple of years. We know that that timing is a little bit of a sweet spot for a lot of people. That's almost enough time on the ice that first
Yep.
time out.
Mhm.
And so what you can do is you can go right on our website on our homepage. You can click to register for a grand opening. It will take you to our software, our event kind of registration platform. We
Right.
use a platform called Upper Hand, and you can go in, you can choose your day, and then there's time slots: 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:30, and there's 8 spots. There's actually 16 spots per time slot because we'll have 2 sheets going
Right.
at the same time, and then people will come in waves over those 3
Yep.
hours.
So
And that
quickly,
was a Denver model that we
that you
took and
took,
built
right.
upon. Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
a big believer in stealing best practices wherever you find them. So it's
Oh,
part of
yeah.
what I'm doing. One of the things I'll throw out to anybody who's listening is I put together for USA Curling, we have a 1 hour intro learn to curl model, which is basically that first time in the ice. And I know some clubs will go as long as 2 hours. Like in Seattle, you're looking at 90 minutes. I am a big believer in the 1 hour model, to be honest, because like you said, I think what it does do is it leaves people wanting a little bit more, right? Instead of being cold and tired and a little frustrated at the end of 1.5 or 2 hours, they're like, well, I think I might get better at this, or I'd like to try to get better at this. So I love the 1 hour intro session. I'm a big fan of that. I know it's not right. Not every club believes in it. That's fine. One other thing in our intro learn to curl models, I'm a big believer in letting people play some kind of game as quickly as possible when they come out to do that. Even if it's, and one thing that I've learned in doing events in the New York area, sometimes on weird outdoor ice and things, is we've gone to just using 4 rocks per team. And the reason I like it is that teams play the end. They see each end as a little game. So if somebody scores 1, they feel like they won a game. So if we play shorter ends, they get more of that rush of that rush of adrenaline from winning what they consider a game. So it also seems a tiny bit safer, and it's a little bit easier to explain to people. You're just throwing 1 rock and then you're sweeping or whatever else. So hey, Lori, I see you making notes here. There's also a question here I'm going to throw out to you from Lindsay Estabrooks, talking about Granite Learn to Curl. 80 people on 5 sheets. She asks, how many instructors do you have for that how many instructors are on the ice with that?
2 instructors per sheet. So we have
Yep.
a lead instructor and then an assistant instructor. And there's 2 parts. There's 2 reasons for that. One is that you've got a lot of people now. Not all of those 80 people are on the ice at the same time. So very similar to what Mimi's discussing, in that we've parceled them out in terms of time. So when you sign up for a Learn to Curl at Granite, you're picking a time that you want to be there. So so it spreads the wealth, if you will. So one is so that you are not managing a whole big bunch of people at the same time, and you can have someone on either end of the ice as you're teaching people how to curl. And the other part of that is also instructor development. So if you don't really know how to be an instructor because you're uncomfortable with that, then you get to be on the ice with an experienced instructor, and you get to learn from them, so that you then become part of the instructor pool.
Yeah, and I think that first intro learn to curl, I mean, if you have a big number of participants like you do, it's good if you have a mix of people who are level 1 instructors. And it's also great to have people who are just fun to be around, right? I mean, you want to have people on the ice who are fun to be around. And then I think if you can keep it moving, I'm always telling our people to keep things moving. I don't bother teaching turn signals and I like the idea of having 2 people that, put a person at each hack. I mean, if I'm out there, I basically see myself as a caddy, and I'll tell the person in the hack which way to rotate it. I don't try to explain in turn or out turn or anything. Mimi, I want to throw it back to you for a sec and ask you, as a brand new facility, and this might be relevant to some of our our facilities that are even a few years old, but in markets where curling's not as familiar. What sort of tools are you using to promote a brand new facility? Like, I mean, I'm sure you've had local news media out, or you will, but what other ways are you getting the word out about something that's still relatively new in your area?
Right. So we've actually, we launched our social media presence about a year ago, right in line with our website, so that we could, from the outset, start to tell our story through the construction process, start to build our
I followed
email
it too. It's been exciting. Sorry,
yeah,
keep going.
it's been fun. I mean, I don't know that we've shared all the ups and downs and, you know, nail biting that comes along with it, but you know, it's always really fun to just to share the project. And you know, the folks at ISS have been really fun and sharing their visits as well. So we've had that social media presence for a year, so that we could tell that story. We could start to build our email list. You know, so right now we've got about 360 people on our email subscriber list.
Okay.
Which has been good for us, and that continues to grow every day. So we've used that social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn and Twitter. We have a YouTube, but we really haven't obviously done a whole lot with it yet. We won't do anything probably until we start to stream certain things. And so we've early on put out press releases and you know, had some coverage around our groundbreaking and the start of our construction. We've been active with our Chamber of Commerce in the city of Lafayette, but in Boulder County as well. They've been great partners with us, so we've been out doing a couple of public events with them. We invested in a street curl over the summer.
And for people who don't know what that is, it's street curling. Lets you, you know, it's sort of a short sheet with rocks that simulate curling. So keep going.
Right. And so we've been out at a brew fest. Scott and I were out at an elementary school fall festival last night to, you know, kind of promote the sport. We'll be doing a few more of those before we open. We were actually able to, we had a corporate inquiry that came up as a little bit before we opened. And so we're actually going to take our street curl out to their hotel in Denver and do a private event for them. So it's been an interesting investment. That's a whole nother webinar.
Right.
But we are, you know, now that we have our firm opening date, we can really now start to think about a little bit more of our traditional media. And we're looking at some radio. We're looking at some different digital media, whether it's website banners, some video, on a different scale of investment, just to kind of really promote our grand opening. A lot of that is, you know, can be a little bit more expensive than what we typically see on social media. So we're trying to find, we're doing a different mix where we will have a little bit more of that traditional media in addition to the social media and digital advertising.
What's interesting is there are so many more ways to communicate, and social makes it, you know, is pretty much free in some ways, unless you're paying for Facebook ads and Instagram ads, which isn't a bad idea, but it also means a lot of work, right? You have to be across all these platforms. But real quick on your email contact list, are you, how often do you send an email to that list? To that subscriber list? Sure.
So we use an email platform. We're working in Flowdesk right now, just in case anybody is curious. I anticipate that we'll migrate to MailChimp once our software platform has an integration. They're working on an integration with MailChimp, which will be life-changing for me. We can push in and out and analyze things a little bit better. We try to keep the updates every couple of weeks or once a month, just about construction and different things like that. We've had some Milestone Communications. When we opened our membership sale on June 1st, we obviously pushed that out. We opened our league and intro to curling registrations in July and pushed that out. And we have some segments of people who have not converted to members or not converted to a curling opportunity. And we're working on building those email campaigns to that are a little bit more sales focused, maybe not necessarily our construction photos or who we are or fun stories like that. So
yeah, it's always a challenge to get communicate enough, but not too much that people tune out. Does Granite use an email subscriber list at all for potential members, Lori, or is it mainly for member communication?
It's mainly for member communication, and we
Right.
use MailChimp, and
Yeah.
that's one of the conversations that's happening at the comm team. And to Mimi's point is that it's more about sales when you're reaching out to potential members. And so what does that look like, and how are you going to get out to potential members?
One thing I'd add here too, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Icebreakers program at USA Curling, which is our effort to reach out to audiences that haven't traditionally curled, the BIPOC audience in particular. And we have outreach ideas for that. That's another presentation later today. So I'm not going to go too deeply in it, but it's another sort of outreach that clubs are becoming aware of and pursuing. I'm going to go to the next screen if that's possible for me. There we go. We've touched a bit on this, but rather than maybe, what do you see coming back from post-COVID, Lori, as some of the biggest challenges? I mean, you have certainly a membership roster you want to push up again, but you're not so far behind. I mean, I think, what have you lost? Most clubs I'm talking to are down maybe 20%.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was thinking about presenting our information today, and it was just a Hail Mary, honestly, in terms of how many people we were going to get back in the door. We set up some financial pictures to talk about this percentage of members returning, this percentage of group events, and we had different scenarios that we were looking at. So by the grace of God, we are back up, and I think we have officially 478 members or something very close to that. So probably in the big scheme of things, Dean, I would tell you we're somewhere down by about 10 or 20%.
Right.
Interestingly, when you look at our membership roster, we have a fair number of new curlers. And it's interesting to me that in a time of basic dormancy for us here in Seattle, there were new members that came to the door with no experience. I spoke to a young man not very long ago. He attended one of our opening parties, and he had never been on the ice. He had no friends that convinced him that he should go. He just showed up, signed up as a member, and was coming to the club to learn to curl. So it's an interesting phenomenon to have people just walk in the door that had nobody refer them. Clearly he'd been thinking about it. Clearly he'd been able to access the website. And then I guess there's just some part of, what we were advertising on Facebook that jumped out at him.
Maybe he was, that was his pandemic goal. We all set pandemic goals. He's like, I'm going to learn how to curl during the pandemic or learn more about it. Are you, besides this one bonspiel that you've decided is cursed, are you changing anything else about your programming post-COVID? Like, is there anything you're redoing in terms of a league now that you have a bit of a fresh start, or are you basically going back to where you were before?
No, we talked a lot about that. Actually, it's a really good question. We only changed one of our league structures. We curl 6 days a week, and we have practice ice on Saturday. And we do have a mixed doubles league on one evening, and I can't remember off the top of my head which one that it was. We actually changed the structure of that so that it's open mixed. It's
right.
And it's more driven toward intermediate curlers and learning to curl. The rest of the structures we kind of left the same, but we had a tremendous amount of conversation about it. The one side of the fence is, let's change everything up because we have an opportunity to do that, or change a significant component of what we do because we have an opportunity to do so. On the other hand, let's keep things relatively the same because we've got so much other noise over here that we're trying to manage. Let's keep something really similar to what it was. So good question, lots of conversation. In the end, we made the decision to just change one league.
Well, it's good you had the conversation. And Mimi, I'm gonna, you know a lot about, you're opening a new facility, of course, but you know a lot about how traditionally curling clubs have run. tell me a little bit about something you're doing that's entirely different, maybe than are you like a triples league, or even how you integrate new members? What are some of the things you're doing that a legacy club could consider, and a newer club would definitely want to consider?
Sure, that's a really good question. I want to just add a statistic to Lori's comment about new members coming in. We have an intro to curling course, which is it's designed to typically be 6 weeks in a perfect season. This season for us in the fall, it's going to be 4 weeks, November and December. 35% of our intro to curling course participants are members, and they're not required to be, right? We actually said for this particular course, membership is not required, right? Because we wanted them to come in and have an experience, and then membership is required for our leagues.
So you're saying they can take this 4 week or eventually 6 week session without joining the facility. It's just like do that,
exactly.
right?
Yep,
okay,
exactly. And it's a higher price point than our leagues. You have a lead instructor, and you have a certain number of assistants based on how large the group is. But you come in, you curl for 2 hours once a week, just like our league curlers do. There's instruction, there's drills, there's gameplay every single week. And so the idea was for us to have this, and in some places, there's mini leagues and instructional leagues that are built in a similar way, but this was for us a bridge between the open houses and that first time curler and the league. And we made the decision this year not to require membership for that course. But 35% of the people, when they purchased that course, they purchased our membership for the benefits that we'd put together.
So 35% still decided to join. The other 65 is like, well, I'm going to try this and see. So you're getting both sides of that. And then most of the people most of the people come through this did your intro learn to curl, or your first session, your open house, whatever you're calling it.
Well, no, they actually,
some of them just signed up for this.
These are people who have, this has been open registration since July 15th. And these are people who just said, yeah, we're curling, we're in, we're going to learn.
They don't need the 1 hour session. They're just in.
Exactly. And some of them are actually, I think we'll see them come in for an hour session because they really want to get on the ice in that first, week or two that we're open before their course starts. But yeah, we were amazed to see the percentage that opted into a membership. And we communicated that in our sales emails, this is not required, but look at these benefits. You get access to member prices for practice ice, discounts on lessons. They're invited to our inaugural member party when we open. They'll be the first people in the building and on the ice. And I think that was just, it was part of an invitation to the community that was, I think, something that resonated with that particular group.
Real quick, any different style leagues? Are you doing a triples league? Or are you doing anything like that? Just straight up, are most of your leagues open, or do you have gender divides? Or
no, we talked a lot about this. Everything that we're doing this year for our fall, winter, and spring seasons are the traditional format, 4-person format right now. Everything's open. And when people register, they can request teammates. And we have a spot in the registration system to do that. We're honoring that, provided that everybody is registered by the time it gets close to closing. And so we, Sean has been kind of tracking all of that and making sure we have, we're honoring team requests, but we're also putting people together in some certain ways that are beneficial for everybody. And that's just a benefit of kind of getting to know everybody and understanding how many years they've curled, or if they're fairly new. So we're keeping it really wide open.
Well, the great thing about open leagues,
start to nail it down.
The great thing about open leagues, I discovered this in 2010. I was my club president. We went from 140 to 280 members on 2 sheets of ice. So the value of an open memberships is there's a lot more places for new members to come in if you have everything open format. So we've talked about a lot of this stuff, but conversions, intro, learn to curls. So your session, Mimi, is basically like a follow-up learn to curl, the beginner rookie league. That's what you get people to sign up for. Lori, do you guys do anything like that at the Granite Club, a beginner league? Or again, you haven't had a big reason to do it in the past, but I guess now you might.
Well, what we have had in the past, which I can't take any credit for whatsoever, but I have to tell you that I'm really proud of it. So from our learn to curl sessions that we offer, which are many, on Sunday afternoon at 12 o'clock, we have a novice league, and you don't.
Okay.
And you don't have to do anything except pay membership to come to that league. And it's really similar to what Mimi is talking about. It's a place for new curlers to come. There are folks there that will give you instruction. They do not have a defined curriculum, but it is how we get new members in the door, because unfortunately, unlike Mimi's club, as they are opening and they get to design that, we have a lot of legacy,
Right.
a lot of tradition that has fallen in. We still have a ladies league. Ladies
Sure.
league is Wednesday night and men's league is Thursday night. And there's
and my sympathies to the president who tries to end those.
yeah, and was part of the conversation. I said, yeah, not on my watch.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm going to be remembered for.
No, there are other
So.
things that they can remember, but we do bring new folks or get new folks into the door. The other thing that is cumbersome for us is that our season opens in September, October, and we run all the way until April. And so that is our season. And we did spend a lot of time talking about, should we have the fall season or the fall season and then the winter season? Like, how should we try and figure that out? Again, part of the conversation, but in the end, the decision was made. We've got so many other things that we have to try and figure out what we're going to do. Let's just stick to what we know and then plan for changing some of these things for next year as we open for the next season. We also then have spring league. So after our big April spiel, bond spiel, that ends the regular season and spring league starts there. And we run, I think 5 nights a week, we run leagues on those. And that's another place that we direct folks who want to learn to curl out of a learn to curl novice league throughout the remainder of the season, and then come in for spring league. And so I myself run Friday night spring league. And with that sign up, I do what Mimi does. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out where I'm going to put all of these people. Clearly, I have people who are experienced, and we spend a lot of time trying to figure out where to put folks so that people can learn. I myself curl in spring league. And so we were just talking about this last night. I rarely skip my team in spring league. I will bring in new curlers and then maybe skip the first game. It's about 8 to 10 weeks, depending on 8, 9, 10, depending on when we choose to take the ice out. And then I have people play all of the positions throughout that 8 weeks. So they really get a feel for what it's like to be as a part of a team.
Sure. I'll add 2 quick points to that. I spoke to Jonathan Penny from Cincinnati, with a relatively new club. I saw him Thursday in Cleveland, and he said similar to what Mimi's talking about, but they have a trimester sort of setup so that anybody who comes in the club doesn't have to wait that long to get active, right? And I think we're going to touch on that in the Olympic section here about getting people in, getting them going right around. They also did a thing in Cincinnati. They were open last year, but sort of part of the COVID restrictions. They played games 3-handed, so with like triples. They didn't use that triples format, but they played with 3 players. And they rotated, every 2 ends or something. And I actually think that triples with rotation is a great thing to do. Give everybody a chance. I think it's some of our newer curlers never standing in the rings actually fail to really understand how the game works sometimes. And that's difficult. That makes their retention difficult. So get them in there. I think it's also great for junior programs. If you have a junior program, make sure they're playing some triples so there's not a kid stuck at lead most of the time. We talked a lot about this continuing education instruction. I'm looking at my time, and I kind of want to get to some of these things, including integrating new curlers during the Olympics. Obviously that's a big push for everybody. Mimi, I'll start with you. Do you guys have any special plans during the Olympics, pre-Olympics? Are you going to do anything like run paid Facebook ads during pre-Olympics or paid Instagram ads, things like that? So fill me in a bit.
Sure. So we're actually, we're running, I anticipate that what we will do is we will have this series of open houses right now for our grand opening. And then we'll shift towards marketing a series of open houses around the Olympics. So a more Olympic focused. Honestly, though, we talk about the Olympics in most of our marketing, right? You've seen it on the Olympics, you want to try it, but where do you go? You know, get your bragging rights before the Winter Olympics now. So we talk about it a lot. It's an easy way to introduce it and lead into it. So I anticipate that we will absolutely have a series of open houses before and during, and probably a little bit after the Olympics. I am sure that we will do some paid advertising around it, without a doubt. And I imagine, so we have in our winter season is 12 weeks. And so we will have 2 6-week intro to curling courses. So as that pipeline comes in, they'll be able to fall right into our intro courses that start at the beginning of March. So we'll be able to kind of tie that group right into an immediate experience. If so they critical. Want that, right? So right up into that, they get right in. And then we actually have a spring season that follows. So there doesn't have to be a lot of downtime for that particular group. There will always be a pipeline to do more regular curling.
Yeah, I think as much as clubs have capacity, when people come in during the Olympics, please don't tell them to come back next October or September to join. If you're not a 12-month-a-year club, especially get them into something before the season ends. They might even pay for their membership for next season if they love it. So
and I will say too that one of the things that we're doing, because we have we're new and we don't have a lot of sacred cows, right? Sacred cows or anything. We have earmarked our Friday nights over the course of the year for what we call kind of social curling. So if you've come into an open house and you've gone through kind of an initial curling experience, you have the basics down. We're going to start marketing to those groups to kind of come back and just be our occasional curler. Where if you want to come in, but you can't commit to a weekly thing, we'll have a lot of these opportunities on Friday nights that have themes and games or prizes or partnerships, you know, with breweries or what have you, so that people can come in on that occasional basis. And I think we'll have some of those during the Olympics and then following through the rest of the season too.
Lori, I'll throw it over to you then for what has Granite learned from, say, 2006 on that might be helpful, and what are you sort of thinking about for this season? Where you would, you probably like to pick up a few new curlers. I love this idea of also pre-Olympics, because I think there's a lot of people who see it, like there's probably people saw it in 2018 and didn't do it, and they spent 4 years. I really should try that. And if you can get to them with a message that says, try it before it's super busy, I think that's a great message. But sort of what are some of the things that Granite's done and had success with, and maybe what hasn't been successful, if you can remember anything?
No, I can't remember anything actually in terms of what hasn't been. You know, I joined the club in 2007, and I feel like I've been on Mount Everest ever since. I joined the club because I love the game and threw myself into the club, and here I am now. I'm the president of the club. But one of the things that has been successful for us and that we're going to repeat is throughout the actual Olympics. So not only the Learn to Curls, really bolstering the Learn to Curls and advertising, just as Mimi said. And Mimi, I think that you guys are doing some remarkable ideas on how to get folks in the door. But for the last Olympics, what we did was we took a sheet of ice every single night for every single one of the leagues, and we Learn to Curls during those leagues. So very similar thought process to Mimi, in that you get people on the ice and they're actually participating. They're in a Learn to Curl session, but they're participating in that community or that feeling of being on the ice really during the leagues. And so that will happen again. And there's a team that's working on making sure that we put all of those things into place. And then, very similar ideas in that pre-advertising, get on the ice, get a chance, get on the ice before the Olympics, changing up the website so that it says all of those things. The unfortunate part for us at Granite, and you had said it earlier, Dean, we have some sacred cows that
Right, sure.
that,
Can't touch that Super League out there, can you?
uh,
All right, I won't get into that, but yeah, you do have some things to work around.
yeah,
Um,
and not saying that it's bad, but it really is, it is really something that you have to step very carefully around, because what you also don't want to do in getting new people in the door is you don't want to turn your current members,
right,
who many of are long-term members, you don't want to upset their world so much that they're like, yeah, you know what, I'm kind of out of here.
right,
And and it becomes a tight rope to walk, because our long-term members are valued, and we want
yeah.
to make sure that they understand, they know, and they understand that we value their participation.
I mean, I'll say one thing. I know that as a former club president, I had one good answer though. Sometimes when people said, "Oh, nobody will want to do that." I remember when we went to 280 members, we had to start a bunch of new leagues, and somebody said, "Nobody will want to curl at that time." And I said, "You think nobody will want to curl then, or you don't want to curl then? If you don't want to curl, then that's fine. But there might be people who do, and I think a lot of people have." I'm interested post-COVID, sort of what are the schedules are like. I think people have some more flexible schedules. I think programming at clubs could change, and that could help with our recruitment. If all of a sudden, one of the things, like I know in Southern California, Matt Gamboa, they're running a brewery league, probably daytime, where a brewery can just buy a team in this league and they can send anybody they want. So, they might send different people each week. So find some of those occupations where maybe people work at night, a restaurant league, and try to use that, that ice time that is typically harder to use, try to get some of that going and recruit new members that way. And that may not, in a club like yours, Lori, that has less impact on the people who are there forever, so.
Yeah, I think it's really important though, what you said, Dean, in that, and I say this all the time, what you want or what you desire can't be in the decision-making process, whatever. And I think it's really, really important, especially I don't want to say coming back after COVID, because I'm in medicine and I live this.
Right. I say that as an optimist, but
exactly.
I know, but that's my optimistic side taking over.
But I think it's really important to spend some time thinking out of the box. And there is no idea that's a crazy idea. Get out of the box and just start thinking. Just wag it all, write it all down and think about it, because you yourself may not like that idea, but I guarantee you there are people. We had this conversation last night at our table. When are bonspiels coming back? And we talked about, what constitutes a bonspiel: food, drink, and curling. And that when you take away the food and drink, do people really want to curl? 6 of the 8 people sitting around the table said, no, I just really, really want to curl. And so you just have to keep everything on the table and have those really open, honest discussions to go, this actually might work. Let's give it a try.
Right. And then track your success, right? I mean, exactly. I think even if you try different styles of learn to curl, track which ones convert to someone joining a league like Mimi has, or that opening session. Track those conversion rates, because often I think at a lot of clubs we're like, hey, we're doing great, but maybe sometimes we push a lot of people through that don't come back, right? At a lot of places, and that's nobody's fault. It just may be something to do with the format. So. We've sort of talked a bit about COVID. I'm going to look quickly at the in the chat and the Q&A and see what we've got going in here for you guys. Eric asks if Granite's learn to curl format is the same as Rock Creek's open houses. I think a little different, because I think Granite's does a 90-minute learn to curl. Rock Creek's, you're doing your open houses are 60 minutes. Like I said, I have a model from USA Curling if anybody's interested in it. Not certainly meant to be the only thing you do, but for ideas for a 1 hour learn to curl, an intro one. Ryan Olson asks, what are the best ways to convert people from learn to curls to joining the league club? I understand that many are just trying the sport to try it one time. I guess maybe you've answered that a little bit, but is there anything else you want to add? I also would add too that, if you get somebody in and they pay for a learn to curl, one session on the ice, and that's all they want to do, that's not the end of the world either, right? You've captured some revenue, and you know, not everybody's going to love curling. I mean, I say that in our Icebreakers program. There's no guarantee that the people you invite are going to love it. Like my wife would be one of the 2 out of 8 that curls for the food and drink, but not so much for the game. So
She could come to Granite. She'd fit right in.
oh yeah, she'd love that part of it. But what do you think about converting people, Mamie? And it's sort of now what you're planning to do. So have a stab at that if you can.
Yeah, no, and this actually kind of circles back to what Lori was just talking about was, you know, we spent some time kind of developing our kind of customer journeys. How do you come in the door? What do you do after? What do you do after that first open house? How many times do you kind of go through a particular cycle before you get to leagues, membership? Do you ever get there? Right. And there's so many different iterations that you could survey members, you could talk to people about how did you get in and where did you go before you came to this point, right? Because arguably a member who curls in a league is perhaps there's the most profit there with the least staff.
Right. Yep.
You know,
least amount of resources
time
to
involved,
maintain it.
right?
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. And so that's a sweet spot, but it's not necessarily for everyone. You know, I think that if you have somebody coming into Learn to Curl and they're not coming into leagues, is there a space in between that you can provide a place for those people who have some experience, who can get on the ice? They're not completely foreign to the sport. Is there that occasional experience that you can provide? Maybe you take a spot during your Olympic cycle and market to those people who have come out, who just want to come out one more time. You know, maybe it's an hour, or maybe it's a special, just one-time game that's has some prizes or has themes, or maybe there's some shorty components in it that gets those people back without having to commit to a weekly, you know, a 20-week or a 6-week or anything in between into that league.
It's not the end of the world if you get someone who brings their corporate event there every year, right? And none of them join, but they bring that corporate event every single year would be great, right? One thing I wanted to touch on before we move on was what Lori brought up. I love the idea, by the way, of a Learn to Curl going on while other league play is underway. I know I talked to the folks at the Atlanta Curling Club for my podcast, and I think some people come in and they don't even know, like, what's the next step, right? So they do this Learn to Curl, but if they can see people enjoying the game, having fun, that's probably the most powerful sales tool you have. I also, just on what you're talking about, Mimi, people not really being able to sort of what the pathway is. And I know there's a guy, Bobby Ray, up in Northern Ontario, is a pretty good thinker on this stuff. And he has a pathways infographic that might be touch too complicated at times, but it sort of shows a curler, like they come in and how they can then start playing in leagues and move on, because sometimes I think we have to step back because we're so, you know, we're curling nerds. We have to step back and realize that somebody else might come in and be like, I don't know what happens next, you know? So we gotta go ahead, Lori.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dean. I didn't.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Mimi made me think about something, and I wanted to add. I have a new board member. She's actually been on the team now for about a year, but her job is membership and volunteers. And what led her to be in that position was she was doing a graduate program at the UW on human engineering, I think is what it is, or something very similar. And she did a survey, and it was not just a one point in time survey. It was a survey of all of the folks in the club, and she asked different questions like, how did you find out about curling? What do you think about curling? What about bonspiels? How do you feel about being incorporated? What do you think about our community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I can share that content with folks if they're interested in that. But it became for us a gap analysis of members in our club, new members in our club, old members in our club, and then focusing around, part of it was focusing around bonspiels, but part of it was focusing around membership. That became a map for us in figuring out how to recruit, and then also how to retain membership. And so I would encourage people to spend time thinking about that. What is it that you want to know? One of the things that we learned at Granite is that we weren't very nice. And I was, I'm serious. And I was heartbroken to think.
Seattle freeze.
Exactly.
Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, don't even talk to me about that. But whatever. I was heartbroken to think that people would come into our club and not feel welcome and not feel like they belonged as just walking in the door. So I would encourage folks to spend time thinking about that and thinking about what is it that you want to do from a gap analysis perspective, because that will help bring ideas for you to the table. The other part, and I've been talking with the person that's running our group events at the moment, is a survey. It's a survey for folks who have come in the door, and that speaks more to what you and Mimi are talking about, Dean. What did we do well? What didn't we do so well? What would you like to see different? And then, you know, asking some pointed questions about, what do you think about moving forward? Is this something that you think you'd like to do? How would you like to come back into the club? Do you want to be, you know, do leagues or whatever? And I think that that will be also an extremely valuable gap analysis and give you some direction in what you want to do from a new membership perspective.
Yeah, and this learn to curl model, intro learn to curl model we have, it's about just getting those that contact information and following up with an email. And and I think there's actually two ways to go with that. You can go with a survey. You can also go with a real, like sort of a more automated approach. You can also go with some clubs have success just with, hey, you know, you were on the ice the other night. How did it go? And Dean, you know, so I think you can test both and can both work pretty well. I'm going to look real quick here at the arena clubs often struggle to get ice time, so learn to curl session opportunities are less than clubs would like. Any ideas as to how arena clubs can pitch getting more ice time to arena facility leadership? We're not really arena clubs here, but I'm going to say this to those people. I believe that our arena facility curlers are the most dedicated curlers we have in the game by far. As much as I love curling, I don't know if I do put the work in, they do it. I think the one thing I'll talk to arena clubs a little bit about is you know, icebreakers can be a great way to say, hey, we're going to introduce a more diverse audience to this facility. I think you have to pitch that you're going to get people in their facility, but I don't have a bunch of easy answers for you here, and maybe we can I'll follow up with some better answers. Lindsay Estabrooks asks, has anyone tried a come watch curling event with a host to talk to participants available during regular league play? I've thought about that. I've never done it. We've never done it at our club, but I think it's not a bad idea. Are you guys planning that?
Only I'll go first. Only on a personal level. I just day before yesterday was talking to my team from work, and we have been working remotely, a lot of us, for since COVID, and we have the opportunity to go to the club this coming week, and that was exactly what I was going to do. These are folks that have never been on the ice. They've never really seen curling except on television. They lovingly mock me because I live this sport, and I said, okay, let's do this. Let's go to the club. We'll watch some professionals curl, and I will teach you about the game while we're watching. And oh, by the way, we'll have a cocktail at the same time. So
yeah, it's interesting too. At USA Curling, we're talking about, and this was an idea I stole from Craig Fisher at Fort Wayne, about putting together a video that's like how to watch curling during the Olympics, right? Yeah. So and hopefully we can do something on that front. But I think it's good. I mean, honestly, I think most clubs, you should, especially during the Olympics, be prepared if someone comes in, that there's people there, even if there isn't an open house or learn to curl underway, that there's people there every night who are good at talking to people who come in. You know, you could have Phil Tilker at Granite there, Lori. He just talked to people till they passed out. But Mimi, how about you? Is there anything you're doing on that?
Yeah, we've talked about this in a couple of different ways. I know we plan on doing some Olympic trials, watch parties, you know, along with the Canadian games as well, kind of having them upstairs up on the screens with some people to kind of talk through, maybe explain what people are watching. We've also kind of talked about an idea of having some on some of our, you know, either Saturday nights or maybe during our social curling, doing this thing called marquee matchups. And this kind of came from a place where we know we've got some Denver teams that are competitive. We have some teams coming up curling on certain nights that are wanting to get a chance to play together, how do you help those teams that want to compete or want to travel or want to go towards club nationals get some time to play against each other? And so we've been thinking about having these times where you can almost challenge another team, come in on a Saturday night, face off against each other. We open the bar, we have, you know, everyone else can kind of come and watch, but then it becomes an opportunity for us to invite maybe our open house participants or put it out on social media.
Right.
If you want to come watch, you know it's going to be a good game because they're experienced curlers.
Yeah,
it serves a purpose for those athletes because it gives them a chance to play against each other and get some practice in. But then it gives you a chance to kind of talk to the people who are watching and explain what they're seeing.
Watching a reasonably well played game. Your Saturday
Exactly.
SmackDown. So
exactly.
I like
well, there
it.
you go. So yes,
I like it. I think that's a great idea, and you know, I think you know, yeah, I think there's a couple takeaways from there. One is do those learn to curls while games are underway, and if you can bring in and shut, you know, it's a lot easier to understand the game when you see shots being made than it is when it isn't. That's just the reality of it. I'm going to stop here because we're at our hour. I'm just going to quickly, I'm going to give you guys both a chance to wrap up. I'm just going to say on behalf of USA Curling, I really appreciate your time today. And I want anybody listening to know, reach out to me for any follow-up. I might bounce stuff off both of you. You know, I think I want people to know that USA Curling, what we really want is strong clubs everywhere. We don't, you know, we have no other intention but seeing our club succeed. So as much as we can help, we're hoping to do that. As much as we can offer more championships for people to play, and I think we can do. One thing, you know, you brought up, Mimi, this idea that, you know, people having those teams that are slightly more competitive play. I think that's also valuable. You know, we used to always say in curling, oh, it's so easy, anybody can do it. And I'm not sure that's the greatest message sometimes, because I think there's also a group that's like, well, I want to do a sport. You know, if I'm 25, 30, I want to try a sport that has some challenge to it. Nobody tells me to tell someone to go golf because it's so easy, right? So what I always like to say, actually, what I tell people is it's easier than golf to become competent and enjoy the game, but just as hard as golf to reach an elite level. And then that sort of gives them, I think, an idea that, hey, you can come in and enjoy it and make some shots and have some fun, and you're going to be just as challenged as an athlete to get to that next level. So, and with that, I'll just throw it to both of you. Lori, anything you want to say just to wrap up?
no, I don't think so, Dean. I really appreciate you asking me to participate. I think that this has been really, it's been really helpful. Mimi, there was lots of things that you said that I have taken notes, as Dean pointed out, that I would like to bring to the table. I would also encourage anybody that if they have any questions specifically for me, you can always email me. You can go to the Granite Curling Club of Seattle website, and my contact information is on there. I would be happy to answer any questions that I possibly could for anybody that has interest.
And Mimi?
Yeah, gosh, yeah, thank you, Lori. This has just been really wonderful, and the opportunity to kind of talk about what we're thinking of and what we're seeing in our market is really exciting. So we're grateful for that. I'm also available if anybody has questions about our membership price point or our benefits, how we're looking at that. I'd be happy to share.
All right, all.
Yeah, thanks, Dean.
Thanks so much for your time. Again, follow up with me or with Lori and Mimi, but I'm certainly, my email, dean.gemmel@usacurling.org, and I'm happy to answer emails, get on calls as much as possible. So thanks very much, guys. See you later.
All right, thank you, Dean.
All right.